It's Saturday morning, but the Broncos are back at work for day 3 of training camp. The fans are filing in here at UC Health Training Center, and we're ready to go. We'll have it all covered coming up on Broncos Training Camp 2019, powered by Ford. Hello, and thank you for joining us this Saturday morning. I'm Phil Milani alongside Matt Boyer and Andrew Mason. And guys, we're on day 3 now, but from the first couple of practices, we've noticed no music out there. Kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, a little bit, but if you're a position coach especially, you love it. I mean, think about it this way. You know, if you've got a guy like Juwan Winfrey and he makes a mistake in practice, Zach Azzani wants to be able to pull him aside and say, hey, here's what we need to do on the next play. T.C. McCartney, same thing. You've got 2 young quarterbacks who need to learn this offense and get acclimated to the speed of the NFL game. You need to be able to say to Drew Lock and Brett Rippon, hey, you know, we got to change some things up. So it might not be great for the fans, but the coaches love it.
That's exactly what Vic Fangio is thinking about, because he's spent 3 decades as an assistant all over the league. So he's worked under different head coaches. He's seen a lot of different methods of going about every aspect of running a football team. He's probably taken notes over the years and has said, okay, when I'm in the big chair, I'm going to do it this way. And as an assistant, being in some camps where he heard the loud music over and over, clearly didn't like it. He decided, okay, I'm running it now. We're going to have a silent camp. We're going to focus on teaching so I don't have to yell to get my point across.
For the first couple of days, we've heard Flacco up at the line of scrimmage, his hard count. We've heard some coaches yelling, but not too much over the first couple of days. Fangio says there's 2 reasons why he doesn't like music out at camp. Well, first reason, teaching, and this is the other.
There's no music in games, okay? And when it comes to the point where we need to simulate crowd noise in practice, which we will do, it will be noise. It won't be music. It will be noise. So that's what it is in the game. So, you know, noise by definition sounds annoying. Music sounds nice. So if we got to deal with noise, let's deal with noise.
Music sounds nice. Noise is noise. You guys agree with that?
Yeah. Some music is noise, though. Let's just be honest here.
Exactly.
I will say, though, that nothing that Vic Fangio does is without logic and reason. He thinks about every little detail, and this is another example.
Well, just look at the jerseys they're wearing, the game jerseys now. That was something they started doing in OTAs in order to cut down on holding. Usually practice jerseys are a little looser than the ones the Broncos wear. No detail seems to have escaped Vic Fangio's eye in terms of determining how he wants to run this team on a day-to-day basis.
By the way, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Coach Fangio's favorite band.
We're a long way from the 21st of September, all right?
But there's a Denver connection. You've got Philip Bailey, East High School, Denver.
Okay, see? Yeah. It all comes together.
Exactly.
Let's send things down to the field and check in with Alexis Perry. Nice and quiet down there for you, Alexis.
It is. No Earth, Wind, and Fire, no Post Malone. I got nothing down here, but I will tell you what we do have. We have a whole lot of fans out here for this first Saturday practice, and they're excited to see this team out here just warming up right now. And they're also excited to see this team slip into their shells. As you guys can see, that there has been an added layer to the Broncos equipment today. So that means that we are one step closer to a full padded practice. The rumor mill is churning, but nothing has been confirmed by Coach Fangio as to when we will get our first taste of full contact camp. But it will be good to see these guys slightly more physical here today. Back to you guys.
Yeah, exactly, Alexis. Things go up just a little bit today, take it up a notch, mostly along the offensive and defensive line. And, guys, let's talk about this defensive line, starting with Shelby Harris.
Shelby Harris is a guy who we know can play at a high level. Pro Football Focus last year had Harris rated as one of the highest interior defensive linemen in the league. And we've seen flashes, Mace, that, you know, he can do a lot more than just stopping the run. Who can forget that great interception against the Steelers to close out the game last year? So we know he can put it together, and this is a big year for him, a contract year. He wants to prove that his game is complete because he's looking to 2020.
You could argue that was the single most athletic play made by a Broncos defender last year, was that pick against Pittsburgh. So shows that he's very light on his feet. Of course, the contract year and also being the first team nose tackle. He's been a rotational defensive lineman the last couple of years. Now is his chance to get the most playing time of his career. And if he plays as a starter like he did as a backup and has, for example, that high PFF number, he won't just get a contract in 2020. It'll be a big contract.
Another contract year for a guy like Adam Gotsis. How can he improve and show that, hey, he's worth sticking around here?
Well, I think you got to put it all together, right? He came into the league as a rookie with a knee injury, so it took him a little while to get acclimated to the NFL game. We haven't really seen him a lot in pass rush situations. We know he can stop the run, but again, if he wants to get that next big deal in 2020, he's got to showcase that complete game.
Yeah, pass rushers get paid, especially interior pass rushers. It's a lot easier to find run defenders than pass rushers on the defensive line. So he's got to earn that playing time, and there's some competition there for sub-package pass rush roles. Shelby Harris is in the mix. You'll have Draymond Jones, the rookie out of Ohio State. You could see DeMarcus Walker also get in the mix, and that's who Adam Gotsis is going to fight off. If he gets those sub-package pass rush snaps, he has a chance to, like Shelby Harris, get a big contract.
The leader of that defensive line, Derrick Wolfe, says he's feeling great after a surgery-free offseason.
Yeah, he had a great start to training camp last year, and it seems like he's kind of repeated that formula. His attitude's great. Birth of his daughter a couple of weeks ago has his mind in the right place. So, again, this is a guy who we've seen play at a very high level for a long time. In 2015, he signed that extent. He re-upped with the Broncos, and now he's going to kind of go through a similar situation this season. But, Mace, we know what he can do. He is a Super Bowl caliber defensive end.
We know what he can do. The question is, can he continue doing it for 3 or 4 more years to justify a future contract? We're going to get the answer to that this year, of course, working in Vic Fangio's scheme. Now, that said, his motivation has never been higher. You talked about the fact that he became a father this offseason. He's spoken at length about the profound impact that has had on him, on motivating him. He doesn't just want to play in the NFL. He wants to play here. He wants to get that third contract with a team that so few guys get in this day and age. If he has a good season, he'll probably earn it.
And Wolf says that he loves this defense. He's a perfect fit for it. And so far, Fangio likes what he's seen from the 8-year pro.
He's been doing great. I think Derrick likes it. I think it suits his style of play. And I think Derrick is really happy right now, which is hard to believe. I've heard he's a grumpy guy, but he hadn't been grumpy around me. I enjoy being around him.
I wake up every day and I just try to find something to be happy about, because being grumpy all the time just takes a toll on you. And yeah, of course I wake up grumpy, but I get in the shower and take a little bathroom break, and then come in here, get some coffee, and eat some food, and then my mood starts to change a little bit.
A little bit too much information there from Derrick Wolfe, maybe, right?
Hey, everybody goes to the bathroom. We can all relate to that.
Exactly.
Oh,
he wakes up grumpy.
Well,
he wakes up sleepy, which leaves him grumpy. Then he goes through the other 5 of the 7 dwarfs.
We've seen him in previous camps, kind of get into a couple of scuffles, not really feeling the greatest in the morning, but it does seem that he's got his attitude in the right place.
This might be a good time for us to take a break. And
do you have something you want to share?
No.
Okay.
Let's
TMI, Phil,
break.
TMI.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just take a break. When we come back here, we'll be joined by NBC Sports' Peter King.
The best Broncos banter each and every week, that is Broncos Beat.
When we even asked him about the defensive line and where these guys slot in, he said, look, I expect everybody to be able to play everywhere.
They're all in their quote-unquote contract year. That usually means that you play at optimum level.
Catch up on all the latest storylines with your favorite beat writers every Monday evening at 6:30 on TV 20.
For Chris, quarterbacks look at him before the snap and say, okay, I'm not going that way.
Broncos Beat for the most in-depth coverage of your Denver Broncos.
Broncos fans, sign up for the Broncos Fit 7K on Sunday, September 1st. The run walk takes participants through the Sloans Lake neighborhood and finishes on the 50-yard line at Broncos Stadium at Mile High. All participants will receive a Broncos 60th Anniversary Finisher's Medal, a historical t-shirt, and post-race entry into the Broncos Fit Expo with players, cheerleaders, and Miles the mascot. Go to Broncos7k.com and register now.
got a lot of talent, a lot of guys that can play different positions, but we got to all come together. So, and that's what makes the best secondaries that I played with. We've all came together. We've all loved each other and loved to play with each other. So as long as we have that, the sky's the limit.
Chris Harris Jr. saying the sky is the limit for this Broncos secondary. What do you think? It's a revamped secondary. What do you think? How is this group going to be able to come together? Because he said the best secondaries he's played in are the secondaries that love playing with each other.
Well, I think these guys do love playing with each other. We've seen it in the past couple of days. Sua Craven's getting an interception. Isaac Yanum, Devontae Bosby has also played very well. So the guys on the back end have shown up. But I've been very impressed with the communication between the defensive secondary and the linebacking core, something we didn't see a lot of last year.
We've got a lot of smart guys back there, and you've got guys playing interchangeable roles. For example, you look at the nickel back. Well, Chris Harris Jr., Kareem Jackson, Bryce Callahan, they can all be that nickel cornerback playing in the slot. And the fact that they're cross-training at various positions, I think, is helping the communication because they all understand each other's roles.
Perfect. And we're going to be joined by Peter King of NBC Sports here in just a second. But first, let's go back down to the patio here and join Alexis Perry, who's standing by with a very special guest to talk about Alzheimer's Awareness Day.
Yeah, that's right, Phil. I'm here with Allie Engelken. She is the Executive Director of Community Relations here with the Denver Broncos. And tomorrow is a very special day here at the UC Health Training Center. It is Alzheimer's Awareness Day. Allie, tell us why last year's Alzheimer's Awareness Day was so successful.
So last year was an incredible success, both fundraising and awareness. And I think we saw a little bit of confusion when we asked fans to leave their orange and blue at home and really come out in purple and support. And when we saw the entire berm turn into a sea of purple, holding up their towels, chanting for Mr. and Mrs. Bolin, it was something that was really special internally and externally. The day ended as the single largest fundraising day in history in Colorado for the Walk to End Alzheimer's, and we know that we can beat that this year, and we're just so excited to bring this back for not only our fans, but also the organization.
So when people come out tomorrow, what can they expect?
They can expect a lot of purple. So we will be handing out purple giveaways. Alzheimer's Association will be on site. They'll be answering questions, sharing information for those who want to learn more. We will have purple balloons, foam fingers, rally beads, you name it. We're really just looking for that awareness piece and really making it okay to talk about Alzheimer's.
If people cannot make it out here tomorrow, can they still support the cause? How can they do that?
Absolutely. First and foremost, follow Broncos Off-Field on social media accounts. From there, you can follow along with everything that's happening. You can also link to donate. If you can't make it in person, we are still matching donations online as well. dbron.co/ALZ. And that's a great way to stay involved and up to date on what's going on.
I know Broncos country, they're looking for every possible way to continue to honor the life and legacy of Mr. Bolin. What's another way that they can do that?
The next way is to mark your calendars for Saturday, September 14th. We are participating in the Walk to End Alzheimer's at Denver City Park. It's the 30th annual walk, and this year we are going to have our Broncos country team out in full force. So we're hoping to see all of Broncos country there with us that weekend.
Okay, everyone, you heard her. Register for that. Of course, thank you so much, Allie. We cannot wait to see a sea of purple here tomorrow. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, Alexis. A big day tomorrow here at Broncos training camp. Happy to be joined by Peter King of NBC Sports. Peter, thank you so much for hopping on.
Good to be with you guys. How are you?
Good.
Peter, I know you've had a chance to talk with Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio, of course, a name that many people in NFL circles have been familiar with for years now, but this is the first time he's been a head coach. I know you're a fan of how he's handled his press conferences just from reading you and listening to you, but how do you think his transition has been?
I mean, I think it was a much-needed transition. I think that what John Elway really wanted is, and again, this is no reflection on Vance Joseph, quite literally no reflection on him at all, but I think John Elway wanted a classic football coach. He wanted a guy who can walk in the room and everybody can look at and say he's been there, he's done that, he's done it for a long time, and he's going to coach us in probably a more traditional way. Now, none of that matters without good play from the quarterback. None of that matters without a better defense. None of that matters, quite honestly, without the entire offense being significantly more competent than it was last year. And that's not exactly Vic Fangio's bailiwick, the offense. But I think this team, this training camp, is much more in the image of John Elway than the last two were.
I know that Joe Flacco, you mentioned him there. They're going to need consistent play from him. Heading into his 12th year in the NFL, he's got something to prove. What do you think is a best-case scenario for Flacco this season?
I think the best-case scenario is that he uses all of the kind of, I don't want to say anger. I don't think it's fair to say that Joe Flacco is angry at people in Baltimore or what happened in Baltimore. But I do think he has a huge amount of motivation to prove them wrong. And to say essentially, you guys didn't get me wide receivers for the last 3 or 4 years. I did the best I could. Now, again, we could probably talk all day whether Flacco is on the downside of his career or whether he was a victim of circumstances in Baltimore. So, but I do think that one of the things, this is something that John Elway pointed out to me, and a couple of players said after practice yesterday, that, and again, it can be so misleading to watch a couple of practices in July and make any judgments at all. But I believe that the Broncos think that they're getting a more accurate Flacco than he showed his last couple of years. And also, it's an offense that if you sort of study this offense, this is an offense that wants to use the tight end significantly more than Flacco is used to. And so, in my opinion, I think if you look at this offense and you're a fantasy football player, why don't you watch week 3 of the preseason and you see which tight end's getting the most targets in week 3 of the preseason and pick that guy. Because, and I don't know whether it's Fant, I don't know whether it's higher, I don't know who it is. But I think that this team is going to attempt, in the old words of Hank Stram, to matriculate the ball down the field. And the reason why that is going to be a plus if it works is very simple. That, there's not 1 or 2 or 3 guys in all of football who throw a better deep ball than Joe Flacco does. So I think the optimum thing is for the Broncos to build the kind of running game, sort of centered around Phillip Lindsay, and the kind of intermediate passing game that you really need so that Joe Flacco can take advantage with Emmanuel Sanders and whoever to throw that deep ball 3 or 4 times a game. And that would be my optimum for Joe Flacco.
There's a lot of excitement around the new offensive scheme, but also Broncos country coming into year 2 with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, a lot of excitement as well. Those guys have both said, 30 sacks, 25 sacks, like we can do this within a season. What do you think are reasonable expectations for both Bradley Chubb and Von Miller as a pass rushing duo in year 2?
In my opinion, I'm going to write about Von Miller in my column on Monday, and I was really, really impressed with the fact that, here's a guy who's played 8 years. He's got 98 sacks. He doesn't mind talking openly of chasing Bruce Smith's record. He knows that in his 30s, he's got to find some way to get 103 sacks, which is not going to be very easy. But I think he's taking on the challenge of slightly remaking his game more in the image of the classic outside linebacker that Vic Fangio has coached and taught over the years. And I think he has studied some outside linebackers who Fangio has coached, and I think he believes that he is ready to be a more multiple weapon than he has been. He can be better in pass drops, and look, none of us expect him to drop a lot. But I think he's going to have a better all-around season than he's had in the last couple of years. Now, Chubb obviously makes it possible for him to have a much better year. Whatever the numbers are, 28, 30, I don't know. But there's no question in my mind that right now, entering this season, there is not a better bookend pass rush duo in football than Chubb and Miller.
Peter, a last one for you here. 2 weeks from tonight, Mr. B, Champ Bailey, will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What do you think that weekend will be like for Broncos?
Well, judging by over the last, 15 or 20 years, particularly in the Twitter era of, say, the last decade, judging by the amount of grief I get every time that Carl Mecklenburg or Steve Atwater, one of those guys, doesn't get in, I have a feeling that there's going to be an awful lot of people, who are going to get on I-70 East and take a caravan and just make sure that Canton, Ohio, is Broncos country that weekend. Look, I think one of the things that is so wonderful about the Pro Football Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame weekend is it allows people who truly love the franchise that they root for to give thanks for the years and years and years of joy that Pat Bowlen made possible. Look, everything behind us right here is because of Pat Bowlen. And the football fanaticism, it wasn't started by Pat Bowlen. But I did something in my column the other day. Here's the thing about Pat Bowlen. He basically ran this team for 3 decades, and the Broncos had 5 losing seasons. Over that same period of time, what would you say are the 3 best franchises in football over that time? I would say Pittsburgh, Green Bay, New England.
Yep.
All of those franchises, each one of them had 7 losing seasons, while the Broncos had 5. So I think it's fairly easy to look at the last 2 years and say, woe is us. And, we went, whatever the Broncos went, 11-21 or whatever it was. But I do think that the reason why everybody views Pat Bowlen so fondly, and everybody will remember him forever so fondly, is that he created the greatness in this franchise that exists to this day and will exist going forward. It was his example that he set. I hope 30,000 Denverites or Coloradoans are in Canton for that, because that's something that Pat Bowlen and his family truly deserve.
We hope Canton looks a little bit orange that weekend. Peter, we'll let you out of here on this. You get any good microbrews around here? I know that's big in Denver.
Yeah, I had a wheat ale last night called Moped, and I'm trying to think. It's from a brewery in Arvada.
Okay,
is that how you pronounce it? Arvada.
Arvada. Yep.
Arvada. And it was fantastic. And what I always try to do when I go to Colorado is, it was a blood orange wheat beer. What I always try to do when I go to Colorado, because there's 350 or whatever breweries here, I always try one that I've never had before. So I went into a store last night and I'm looking at the beer cooler, and it's, how do you pick? How do you choose? It's downright impossible. But I was happy with that. And by the way, I'm doing 4 shows for the NBC Sports Network that are going to be on in the month of August from my training camp trip. And the lead of the first show is going to be me with a Rocky Mountain sunset from last night.
Beautiful.
What an incredible visual last night. And I love coming to Denver. I love coming to Colorado. So I was glad when I looked down and saw the Broncos were opening practice first.
Exactly. Well, you'll have to try. Breckenridge makes a Broncos beer, so you'll have to try that one.
I'll do it.
Ale. Yeah,
I'll do it.
Okay. All right, Peter, thank you so much for hopping on. That's Peter King of NBC Sports. Let's send it down to Alexis, who I think she's standing by with a fan.
Yeah, I am. I'm here with Soraya, Samira, and Kimberly, a few longtime Denver Broncos fans. They're excited to be out here for training camp. Tell me, you guys, who's your favorite player? Who are you looking at today?
Like Von Miller or like Philip Lindsay. Probably Ben.
What about you, Kimberly?
Flacco. Want to see what he's got.
Okay. She wants to see Joe Flacco. What about you?
Cub.
Oh, Chubb, Bradley Chubb. Cub Chubb. Hey, he's a great guy. Great guys to keep an eye out on. How many years have you guys been coming out to training camp?
Well, we just moved here last year, so like last year,
And this
basically.
year?
Oh, and this
2 years, yeah. It's our little hidden secret. We love it.
So are you guys new Broncos fans, or are you guys?
No, yeah. I've been a Broncos fan for 20 years. I actually have a Davis jersey, 30.
Okay. What's your favorite part about Philip Lindsay's game?
I don't know. It's just cool to watch. Like, he's just like a really good athlete. So like it's fun to watch like good athletes.
Are you an athlete?
Yes, I play soccer.
She plays soccer. You guys look like athletes. Okay, are you guys staying cool? I know UC Health, they provided some sunblock. Is everybody feeling good?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I know there's no music, but are you guys still having a good time?
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. With the talent on the field, it's a great time.
Oh yeah. It's fun.
Okay. Keep your eyes peeled. Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, Joe Flacco, some great Broncos fans here. Everybody's having a great time. The weather's nice, too. I hope to see a lot more fans down here tomorrow. Let's send it back to you guys.
Most definitely. Thank you very much, Alexis. Yeah, get some autographs there after practice. It's a great scene out here at Broncos training camp. Our thanks to Peter King for hopping on. Andrew Mason back in the chair now. What did you think about what Peter said? He said there's no better pass rush duo in the NFL than Von Miller and Bradley Chubb.
There's a case to be made for that, and I don't think we've seen the best of them working together just yet. I think they can build off what they did last year. They're talking about 30 or 32 sacks. That is an attainable goal if the offense does its job, if the team plays from ahead and puts them in situations where they can tee off. But that's where the old complementary football thing comes into play. And so, for Von Miller and Bradley Chubb to get the kind of massive number that would cause everyone in the league to stand up and take notice, they're going to have some help from Joe Flacco and company.
And think about it this way, too. Vic Fangio's defense, master of disguise, right? The disguising of pass rush schemes, he's one of the best in the league at it. So when you combine that with the progression that we've seen Bradley Chubb make here in year two so far, I talked to him yesterday while he was working out after practice, getting that extra work in, and he said, this is something I've had to add to my game because I know if I want a long NFL career, it's the time after practice that I need to spend, refining technique, the swim moves, where I'm putting my hands on an offensive lineman. These are all things that I need to perfect if I want to attain that goal of being the best in the league.
You can't be a one or two move guy. And one thing that other edge rushers on this team have talked about is, for Malik Reed, for example, is how Von Miller has shared with him, okay, you've got to have an array of moves at your disposal. And you've got to sometimes play the long game. You've got to set up the offensive tackle or the tight end that you're going against and maybe make a move early that doesn't get to the quarterback but gets them thinking a little bit, and then you use them trying to anticipate what you do against them.
Speaking of Malik Reed, Bradley Chubb showing him pass rush moves yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You have to check that out.
Now.
Exactly. Check that out on DenverBroncos.com. It'll also be, those two might be able to get to the quarterback if that secondary is a little bit more stout this season. We heard from Chris Harris Jr. a little bit earlier in the show, but a guy like Will Parks could be a big season for him. And make sure you check out KUSA 9 News tonight at 6:30. Our broadcast department went out to Philadelphia. They went behind the scenes with Philly out there checking out his workouts. He worked out 3 times a day, I heard. Then they went into his neighborhood out there in Philadelphia. They met with a restaurant owner there who's very popular. They went to the barber shop in Philadelphia. Then, of course, Will Parks held his first free youth football camp. More than 350 participants came out, so quite the scene there. So that's all airing tonight on KUSA 9 News at 6:30. It should be a really quality program there to check out. I know that we'll be watching it.
Yeah, well, I want to see where his cheesesteak spot is. I know everybody's got a cheesesteak spot, so
yeah,
we'll
you're
see
gonna
where
have
Philly
to
Wills
check
is
that
at.
out. But pretty cool that he's giving back to his community like that, and our broadcast crew went out there and did a tremendous job. So make sure you check that out tonight at 6:30. All right, that is going to do it for us tomorrow. Again, wear your purple if you're coming out to camp. Alzheimer's Awareness Day here as the Broncos continue to raise awareness about such a terrible disease, and of course a hard off season for Broncos fans losing Pat Bowlen, but it'll be nice to get him inducted into the Hall of Fame along with Champ Bailey in 2 weeks from today. All right, that is going to do it for us here today. Our thanks to Peter King for joining us, Alexis Perry down on the field, Andrew Mason, Matt Boyer. I am Phil Milani. This has been Broncos Training Camp 2019, powered by Ford.